How's it going, friends? Reckless Yuki here. Hope you guys doing fantastic, and thank you very much for checking out the video. I do greatly appreciate it. And in this video, what we're going to be doing is a product review of this, which is a bloody AL90 gaming mouse. And I'm basically going to put my 2 cents on it, whether I think it's good or bad, after the very in-depth review. So anyways, before we get into the review, though, I want to make the disclaimer that I did not pay for this. This was sent to me by the fine folks over at Bloody. So to you guys watching from Bloody, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And let's get into the review. Taking a closer look at the Bloody AL90 laser gaming mouse, the sensor of this mouse is an Avago 9800 laser sensor, which isn't the best for FPS gaming. I would have much rather had them use an optical mouse like a Pixar 3310. But this is the sensor in which they use for this mouse. The DPI of this mouse can go up to 8200, which is nice and more than enough for any FPS gamer on the PC. The polling rate can be switched between 125 up to 1000 hertz. The switches of this mouse are known as optical micro switches, so that is something that is specific to the Bloody line of mice, and these promise to be a faster click latency than any other mouse on the market. And with this mouse specifically, it is definitely a true statement because I compared it to my current fastest mouse, which is the Final Mouse 2016 Tournament Pro. And this, out of all the mice that I've tested, was the fastest until the Bloody came on the scene. This Bloody mouse is about 1.9 milliseconds faster than my Final Mouse 2016 Tournament Pro. So good job to Bloody with that feature. And that's definitely something that is noticeable as you're trying to aim, as you're trying to whip the mouse around. You can definitely click that and be sure that right when you click that, that bullet is going to fly and you're most likely going to hit your target. But I just wish that it had an optical sensor to give it a more superior feel. As far as the weight of the mouse, we'll use my scale to show you guys the exact weight. This is an adjustable weighted mouse, so if you open this up, you're able to add in weights, which come in a little cylinder thing like here. You can pop these out in order to adjust the weight specifically to what you want or need. And you just plug this in here, put it in, and then that's how you go about adjusting the weight of the mouse. But anyways, without any weights, this mouse comes in at 95 grams. So it's not the lightest mouse, but it's definitely far from the heaviest, and it's an okay weight. I can definitely deal with this weight. And then if you add in all the adjustable weights, it goes up to about 115. So this little packet here is about 20 grams of adjustment you can make to the weight of the mouse itself. Now, as far as the cable is this like thick, or not too thick, but it's not too thin, and it's definitely a tough braided cable. I wish it would have just been a non-braided cable to have the mouse a little bit lighter. And also the mouse, it kind of like kinks up a little bit, as the kinks that came originally with the cable still aren't out of it yet. So it's something that I don't necessarily like, but I can definitely deal with it for the mouse itself. As far as the grip styles of the mouse, as you can see, the mouse shares a lot of similarities with the Razer Death Adder and definitely has that Death Adder feel. And it supports a palm grip for my large hands pretty well. I have to say that this mouse is very comfortable. And definitely if you're a claw grip, you could use this. The profile of the mouse isn't too short. It's actually quite nice for my large hands. So as far as holding this mouse and using it, I do like this a lot. The design of the mouse is definitely an ergonomic right, as you can probably see. As far as the feel and the finish of the mouse, it has this rubberized texture all the way along the body, where at the left and right click, it has a rubberized material to ensure that you're not going to slip. And I feel that a lot of this kind of adds to the weight of the mouse. So maybe they, I don't know, I kind of wish they wouldn't have added all this extra stuff and just gave a raw mouse to make it as light as possible, but it definitely does add a nice feel to it. The scroll wheel of the mouse is pretty nice. It's actually not the worst and it's not the best, but I have to say it's on the better side of a lot of the mouse that I've tested. On the top here, we have these 3 buttons that don't really change the DPI per se. It's mainly to change the 3 different profiles in which you could use for this mouse, because there's a lot of things with this mouse as far as the program and the programming and the specific kind of niches of the mouse that we'll get into in a little bit later in this video. But that's how you adjust it with the top 3 buttons here. And on the side, we just have a forward and back, which feel pretty nice. It doesn't feel too bad. I have to say that the clicks are nice clicks, and I never felt that I misclicked it. The left and right clicks definitely feel pretty good, I have to say. Like, as I press the mouse, I never felt that I misclicked it, and whenever I press it, I don't feel that I'm not pressing it, so it definitely has enough tactile feedback for me. The scroll wheel, as I press it, you know, I'm able to press it without moving the scroll wheel up and down. So it definitely has a decent amount of resistance, or enough resistance to ensure that it's not going to go all loosey-goosey on you. And as far as the side here, there's not much to the side. It's just kind of like this curved edge as we go to these little kind of indentions for the grip on the left and right. So something I don't necessarily like. And as far as the lighting is stuck red, and you can have it different effects. You can have it like a solid, you can have it breathing like how I am now, or you could kind of change it a little bit dimmer. You could have it a little like, I think this is the brightest in which it can go. But this isn't an RGB mouse, so you can't change the light to your heart's content. It's basically stuck at red. But I think for that whole bloody logo and the bloody mouse and the bloody hand here, I think it kind of is quite fitting for that black and red feel. So now taking a closer look at the bloody program that you'll want to use in order to take full advantage of your bloody mouse. We're greeted with this screen here, which basically you could change the cores of the mouse itself, whether it be Core 1, 2, or Ultra Core 3 and Ultra Core 4. In order to get Ultra Core 3 and 4, it might be included with a mouse you purchase, or you might have to purchase this separately, so something to be aware of when you're buying a mouse. As far as what the difference is between these cores, I know that they take different controls between MMORPGs or MOBAs or even FPS games, and I myself prefer to focus on FPS games. But as far as the differences between Core 2 and Ultra Core 3, I'm not too entirely sure, because this program is kind of difficult to follow along. But as far as Ultra Core 2, you basically press this and it kind of gives you those things there where, depending on the button you press on the mouse, you could have different sort of burst shots or single shot. Where Ultra Core 3, I believe this is what you'll have to use in order to engage the macros, or the funny things that this mouse is able to do to allow you to have some superior control when it comes to some guns in games like CSGO. But anyways, we'll move on from here. The buttons in which you could lay out will be depending on the mouse that you have hooked up. Now, as you can see on the screen, I have the AL90 hooked up to my PC for this demonstration. But whatever mouse you have will change for the mouse in which you're trying to control. And as you can see on the right, you could kind of have these things set to different buttons. And here I have my right click set to AK-47, which is what I'll be showing you a little bit later. This is kind of more following along the Oscar macro, which I'll kind of get into a little bit. Now, Ultra Guns is something that I don't really use. Basically, you press the different buttons, 1, N, or 3, in order to have different things like single shot, user-defined gun, or user-defined gun, but I didn't really mess with this setting too much. Sensitivity here, you will go into changing the report rate or polling rate, as well as the DPI, and you can have different settings for, you could go up to at least 5 sensitivity settings, but I only use 800, so I just have 800 here. And then as far as sensor calibration, this is something that you could do with this mouse, is you could sensor calibrate to your mouse pad. So if you just press calibration, it tells you here to press start, and then you want to hold the left button to start, and then you move in a Z, and then you let go, and then it's calibrated for your mouse pad or mouse surface. So it's pretty nice, and it does a decent job, but let's see if it works with just a desktop. So here I'm going to take away my mouse pad, and I'm going to try it again to see how well it's able to control. And it's even like tracking pretty good on the desk, so it's not sure how much better this is going to be. So holding, okay, and it still tracks pretty well. So I'm not sure if that's just because of the laser of this mouse specifically, or if it would matter if I had a different mouse. But it's something that you could do to calibrate the sensor for the surface that you were trying to game on. All right. So anyways, we could also change the pickoff distance, either if you want it really high or really low. Okay, so for this, it's kind of an interesting thing. It's like, how much of a distance do you want from the sensor to the pad in which you want it to, I guess, keep track of? And if we do that, that's basically how you change it. But if you move this too low, you're not going to be able to move your mouse. As I'm trying to move my mouse, it's just not enough range in order to pick up with the pad. So this is how you'll change liftoff distance, of like how far you want it to change, or how far you want to be able to lift the mouse where it's not going to track anymore. So it's really good where you could even get it set down to where you're not going to be able to take any control of your mouse anymore. So pretty neat, and apply that. And as you apply different settings, it will show you here that all the settings will be stored on the mouse. So you don't necessarily need to use this program, and that's something good to ensure that it's really nice. There's not really much input lag because it doesn't rely on the program to go through. Basically, all the settings are saved on the mouse specifically. So anyways, moving on to guard. This is something that is more important for wireless mouse or wireless mouse users. This is something that I personally haven't used at all because I don't have or use wireless mouse when it comes to gaming. But if you need to have some sort of, specific things when it comes to a wireless mouse, they have this here, which I won't really get into. And then they also have a battery life indicator here, which again, I won't really get into. And then some other things here as far as how you want it to look on the mouse. If you want to change how bright the lights are, you could change it here, or you could even just turn off the lights altogether, or maximum brightness. And this is something that is kind of sketchy when it comes to this mouse as far as legitimately playing competitive FPS games. If you're one of those guys who really want to play and don't really want to be considered a cheat, or, value the skill level required to control games, then this is something that's definitely not for you. But if you want to use this, you can. And because this is a review, I'll go over this. You can select basically a way to control the mouse so that you can automatically control the recoil of specific guns. And as I'll show you, I'll open up the recoil for an AK-47 in CSGO that I have set up. So if I open this, you'll see that after you press the button for firing, after you press the button for the macro set, it will left click, and then it will delay 98 milliseconds, and then it will move it versus like the X and Y axis to this amount, and it will hit again, delay, and then it'll move it this amount, and it'll keep doing that to try to follow along with the recoil of a gun specifically, to ensure that you're able to control the recoil so it's not going to spread all over the place, so that when you hold the mouse down and spray, it's going to be a lot more collective than an actual like really wide spray pattern. And you just have to go through and mess around with this. It's a very complicated program. It's not very easy to get into from the get-go, and I won't get into it that much, but it's just you have to start messing around with these buttons in order to generate what looks like here. And it was pretty hard for me to even follow along and try to get this set up. And then as we go to headshots, I haven't really messed with this very much. I don't really understand what this is for, how useful this is. And then the about me. So that's the program in which comes with the bloody mouse. And it's the program that you want to use in order to take full advantage of the mouse that you're using. So now moving on, we're in a game of CSGO. We're in a workshop, the Recoil Master weapon practice area. And I'm going to show you guys how well this mouse is able to automatically control the recoil of a gun like the AK-47. So I'm going to hold down the left click and show you guys the normal bullet pattern and spray you could expect. All right. So that's basically the spray of how it would normally go. And then I'm going to show you guys how different it will be if you use the automatic control of the automatic recoil control of the mouse. So I'm doing that now. So as you can see, that is the difference, as the spray is mainly controlled up here, and then the stock spray is up there. So this is how much of a difference it can provide, that they don't really change the recoil of the gun for you. And this is with the recoil control that I showed you in the actual program itself, and this is the results in which it's able to get. All right, thank you guys very much for sticking through the review thus far. Now we're going to get into my final thoughts and opinions of the AL90 and whether or not this is a good gaming mouse for FPS gamers out there. My preference is FPS. I don't really play any other game but FPS, so that is what I prefer when I'm seeking a mouse to game with. And this mouse has me a bit mixed. I like the fact that this mouse is faster than my Tournament Pro, my Final Mouse 2016 Tournament Pro, and the optical clicks are actually a really nice mouse. The comfort of this mouse is quite nice, but there's just some little things with it that just makes me not want to use it as my replacement FPS gaming mouse. I would much rather prefer my Final Mouse 2016 Tournament Pro over this one. Now, the hardest thing to overlook is the fact that it is faster. That is the one major pro, and thank you guys very much, Bloody, for doing this. That's actually something pretty badass. But the things that make me not like this mouse so much is the fact that you guys have these metal feet for the mouse. Like, I would much rather have polyurethane because I like having cloth mouse pads. So these metal feet, I feel, will just kind of shred that up a bit. I wish this was a little bit lighter. I don't necessarily like heavy mouse. Now, this wasn't heavy, but I feel that it could be a little bit lighter. Maybe get rid of the braided cord because this is something that I don't really see a need for. And also probably get rid of all these rubberized feels. Basically, I like the shape of it. I mean, this little logo here is really cool, but you can do some things to definitely shave it down and shave some weight. Now, as far as the software with this mouse, I think that if you guys mainly just focus on the mouse itself and don't really worry about the software and don't have any programs that mess with the mouse, basically just have firmware with the mouse to ensure that it is as fast as humanly possible when talking to the operating system, that'll be something that I'll much rather have and much rather enjoy. I really don't like the software where you guys have that kick control because that's a little bit gimmicky. And I feel that if anyone ever uses your mice, they'll basically put down in the community, especially the FPS community, as being a cheater. So that is something I hope you guys kind of step away from, or maybe focus on a mouse kind of like this that is more of a tournament grade mouse. I think that would be something pretty cool. And then I also hope you guys change out the sensor. I don't necessarily like the laser sensors. I never really like laser sensors for gaming or FPS gaming. I would much rather have you guys use something like a PWM 3310 or maybe a 3360 sensor. Those would be something that I would highly recommend and highly prefer over this. But overall, this is a fantastic mouse. But if you guys were able to switch those things out and possibly, make those improvements, I think this might be a really high contender for my favorite FPS gaming mouse of all time. But anyways, once again, thank you guys very much for checking out the video. I do greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, especially if you stayed this long. I know my reviews are pretty lengthy, but hopefully that's what you guys like, especially when you're trying to spend your hard-earned money on a product. I want to give you guys the best review I can possibly give. So anyways, thank you very much. I'll talk to you guys again in the next video, all right? Bye.